Such a mess here, but we're gonna unmess it really soon. Hey guys, welcome to the next episode, which is, I believe, the third one about this 1971 Triumph TR6, which we call the Franken car because it was built out of many cars. I don't know how many. We have purple doors, white bonnet, brown body, and then red front clip. So the body is 1971, but the frame is, I believe, after 1974. So it is a Franken car, but that doesn't matter. We're gonna put it together. I believe you've seen the first and the second episodes of the series. If you haven't, you may go and watch it, especially the first one, in which we go through the entire car and we show the issues here and there. In the second episode, we took the body off the frame, we took care of the frame, we made sure that it is straight, all the body mounts are good. There were a few little repairs that we made, and then we put the body back on it and we aligned the body from here back. So we have nice gaps here at the back of the doors. We have a nice gap between the door and the seal, and we know that the body is gonna be where it is right now on the frame. It's mounted solid, and we know that the doors are gonna be where they are right now. But we did that so we can have a good reference for the position of the front clip, because in this episode we're gonna cut it off. We're gonna try to straighten it, to repair it, and whatever we're gonna do with the front clip, and then we're gonna put it back on the body and we're gonna weld it in place. But we have a good reference for it because we have the sail panel and we have the two doors for that. We're gonna position the front clip in such a way that when the bonnet is mounted on where it should be mounted, we're gonna have a good gap here. So you see, we're going backwards. We're gonna have the bonnet lined up with the sail panel. We're gonna have the fenders lined up with the doors, and then based on the bonnet and on the fenders, we're gonna put the front clip where it belongs, you see? So that's the plan for the next few videos, but in this one, the idea is to remove this fender and cut the front clip from where they joined it here. There's just one weld here and one long stitch over there. So without further ado, let's get crack-a-lacking. There's a weld here, they overlapped it here and they welded it on the inside, and that's it, like right here. The rest is just not even matched and overlapped, at least. If it was overlapped anyway, whatever. So now you see here where the body mount is way too high. Here it's way too far back. It needs to be here. So we're gonna straighten, but now when we take it out, this whole part is gonna come out. Here, the joint is here underneath, so we're gonna have to review it. Like, it's cracked here. Was it cut? I don't know. We're gonna have to remove the paint and all the body filler, but you see this whole thing is misshaped because this is pushed in. I'm just trying to figure out when we take it out what we're gonna have to do with it. I don't know what we should do with the inner fender because we have new inner fenders. You see, the owner bought these, but I don't really like them. I don't know if they are correct. I don't want to get into even more trouble. Look, they look like they've been handmade somewhere, so I think I'm gonna try to save what we have here. I don't know. Let's split it first and see how hard it is gonna be to straighten this one, and then we're gonna go from there. So anyways, I'm talking too much. Let me just remove this. I'll put you on time lapse for that. There you go. We're halfway there. Do you think Bon Jovi is already like 3/4 way there, or still halfway there? He should be 3/4 there by now. Whoopsie. We're halfway there. How do you even take this out? Like that. Dun, dun, dun. I have an idea. Why don't we make it like Spitfire? So you can sit on the wheel and work on the engine. Alright. Now what? Now we have to fix this guy. But first I'm gonna take care of this guy. So this needs to be straightened. So this body mount can match there. That's not working somehow. That's fun. It's gonna come together, don't worry. It's gonna come together. You won't even believe it, how easy it is gonna be. Alright, so I spent some time repairing the body as much as I can. Just wanted to see how far back into the body I have to go. So I removed pretty much everything that needs to be removed. Maybe I'm gonna remove this as well. We'll see, but I removed this from here so I can straighten. You saw how it was pushed in. So it's kind of straight now, straight as it could be. But I removed the flange that was left here because what we're gonna do eventually, we're gonna extend this part here and we're gonna make a flange when we know exactly how much to extend it. But judging by this hole here, it's not that far because this is where this hole is on the other side. Let me get rid of that. See where this hole is. So we shouldn't need to extend that too much, but I think it's easier to extend it and just put it there and plug weld it. Obviously we're not going to be able to spot weld it. The other side, I straightened the wheel well as much as I could. Actually worked pretty well with dolly and the hammer. It's amazing what you can do with a dolly and a hammer here too. And luckily I had this speaker hole which David wants me to close, so we're gonna close it at the end. But for now it was pretty useful because I was able to put my hand inside with the dolly and hammer on the outside, and voila, this is pretty good now. I think we're pretty much done with the body. Well, there's something here that I need to clean before we put the clip back on because it's gonna be easier. But I think now it's time to start dealing with the front clip, and the right side requires some work. You see how it is bent here and bent there, but we can do that as it is in one piece. The rest, I think it is actually pretty good. The problem is the left side, which you see how this is pushed in here. The wheel well is bent. This part, the inner fender, is bent. So here, this is all bent. Like, I can probably straighten it with a dolly and a hammer here in this area, but this I don't see a way to straighten. I need to be able to put it on a hard place, like on an anvil or maybe a sandbag. I don't know how we're gonna straighten this, but for that I'm gonna have to drill the spot welds around and take it out. So that's what I think I'm gonna do next. This part we can straighten as it is here, and there's some damage here, but I think we can fix that as it is in one piece as well. But the wheel well I'm gonna take out. It's also gonna be easier to fit it with the other one, and yeah, we will see. We're not gonna think so far ahead. Let's just drill this out first. Huh, look at that. It actually gives me hope that eventually it can go back together. And on top of it, I think I have enough material. I thought I was gonna have to add a strip of material there in between, but looks like I have more than enough. It's overlapping, so we can cut it and butt weld it. There's only one wedge at the top that looks like it's not fitting. Of course, this is very, very rough fitting right now. It needs a lot more work to be smoothened and that curve to be straightened. Like I'm talking about this curve here, not this curve only. But look at that, it's actually fitting just like normally the bodies fit, right? It's hanging like a 1/4 inch above the body mount, and yeah, looks like it needs to come out, but we'll see. I think next I should deal with this part. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is not anywhere close to being done, but I mean, I want to rough all the parts and somehow attach them together and put them back in the car and see if I have enough. For example, this piece, I'm debating whether to play with it at all, straighten it, etc., or just grab the new one. But I don't want to deal with the whole thing, but maybe I can grab the new one and just cut it here or here and use that. But somehow these don't give me a lot of confidence. You see how they are built? This weld here, there's a weld here, so obviously they're not heritage, and I don't trust them. I think they're gonna give me more trouble. Look at this, it is super sharp here. They're not pressed, they are bent. They're like separate parts that are bent somehow. So I'm gonna avoid dealing with this until I really have to. However, what I'm gonna do is actually, because I can't do a good job straightening this part as it is right now, this here shouldn't be flat. This is going down and then in, and then this is a flange down, just like here, you see? So that's gonna be impossible to do here as it is hanging in the air and playing all the time. So what I'm gonna do, there's like 5, 6, 10 plug welds that I'm gonna drill here, and I'm gonna take it out. I think it's gonna be easier, and then I can put it on the bench, in my improvised bench. I kept thinking I should go on the bench, but I didn't want to move cameras and everything, so yeah, I use this as a bench, and I use this as my table for tools. But yeah, I'm happy actually. It's coming along. The other side is much better. It also has a little bit of a issue down there. We have to straighten that piece, but once we straighten this and then that, we're gonna be able to put it back in, and we'll see. There for sure I'm gonna need to extend that and add a flange up, but hopefully I have enough material for that part, the vertical part. I don't know, we will see, we will get there. For now, I'm gonna leave this as it is, and I'm gonna take that part out. I think you saw enough of me hammering and whatever, so at least I'm gonna take it out without you, and then maybe I'm gonna bring you back for straightening that part. I'm gonna put you on a time lapse again, and I know that you enjoy the music, so I'm gonna play some more music for you while I'm bashing at this piece of sheet metal. Do you still think that this is not possible? Of course it is. You see, it's coming together. Here I matched these exactly where the spot welds are. So we know exactly how to put them back together in this area. There we still don't know, but this is gonna get straightened. It's still a little bit curved, but we're gonna fix that up. Here we have more than enough material, I think, depending how far forward we want to go, but that we're going to determine with the fender and the bonnet. So we have to put the bonnet on somehow. We're going to see when we have enough structure here. We're going to put the bonnet on, and we're going to make a perfect gap here, both sides, and then based on the length of the bonnet, we will know how far we have to put the fender on, right? Because the fender and the bonnet will need to line up here in the front, and the fender needs to have a good gap here. So that's going to determine the position of the bonnet and the fender, and then based on the length of the fender, we're going to determine how far we want to put the valance, because this part will need to line up with the fender, right? And then once we determine the length, then we can cut this off so they don't overlap. That there, I'm sure it's going to be long enough, except at the top. So for right here, we're going to have to make a wedge. Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe it has to go further in, I don't know. But the body mount matches there, so should be good. I need to put a piece of wood like I put there, because we need a spacer there. The only thing that concerns me is the height at the front. I mean, I don't want the valance to end up crooked. The fender is going to give us the height, because we're going to have perfect gap there, and then that's going to give us the height of the fender, and again we're going to adjust this to the fender. So if we do that properly on both sides, the angle, this angle on the fender is what's going to determine the height of the valance. But again, we have to, once we position everything where we think it should be, we're going to have to very carefully take measurements, like diagonals. I don't care about these diagonals so much, because for this we're going to use the bonnet. The bonnet is going to be our guide for how far in this needs to be and how far out, and the same here. We're going to make the fender and the bonnet have the perfect gap, and that's where we're going to position the inner fenders. So I'm not worried about these diagonals, but I'm worried about these diagonals. These diagonals, somehow we need to confirm them. So maybe we're going to take a measurement from here to the corner of the door and do the same on the other side, because I really want to know, I really want to make sure that the valance is not crooked, you know, because that's possible. We don't have any reference for that. But I'm talking way too much. Let's get back on crackle locking. Let's take care of this piece now. Ugh. This piece of sheet metal. All right, next day, and this is an entire day progress from yesterday. The day before was when I cut off the front clip and I left it out, and that's how we ended the day. So when I started cleaning up that part and this part here, that was yesterday morning, and this whole thing took me entire day to bring it to this shape. You can imagine how slow process that is, but it is actually pretty satisfying, because I think we are on a very, very good track here. I was expecting a lot worse. In fact, the way I lined it up now, and I think we are pretty close to the truth, I don't even need to make that wedge there. But we're gonna have to be very precise with the positioning of that thing. So now that we have the parts kind of straightened, they need a lot more work. Each individual part needs a lot more work, but we have them kind of positioned where they go. So I would like to somehow position them more precise and in a repeatable way, you know what I mean? So I can take a part out, work on it, bend it, fix it, whatever, and then put it in the same way where I think it belongs. So for that, of course, we can use clicos, but how do we find even roughly where we need to be? I mean, we discussed already how we're gonna find the exact position of everything. We're gonna base that on the fenders and on the bonnet. Okay, but we need to have a rough position before we even put the fenders on. Well, I think we got lucky here. The fact that the cut on that side is in front of that little circle, and on this side is behind that little circle. So assuming that these two circles are symmetrical for left and right side, you know what I mean? The distance from the circle to the bulkhead and here from the circle to the bulkhead is the same, well, then I can measure here, because that isn't changed. I can measure from bulkhead to the circle and make this circle the same distance from the bulkhead on this side. Again, assuming that that was symmetrical, which I think it should be. And then the same for the front. I'm gonna measure the distance from this circle to the headlight bucket, for example, and then I'm gonna position this whole front end the same distance from the circle to the headlight bucket. And that's gonna be a good starting point. So then I'm gonna be able somehow to hold at least here at the top. I don't care about the bottom yet. Like in this part, I just want to make this the correct length. And this means if I can somehow clamp them here together with a clico maybe through here or something, and the same there, that's gonna give me a chance to take out the clamps and start putting fenders on. And if I put enough clicos in many places, then it should become pretty structural piece again, so I can even put the bonnet, because right now it is like not gonna hold my bonnet. So, okay, I stepped too far back. There's a Miata here, Elin. So let's start taking measurements here. Finally something with numbers in it. So, yes, measuring tape. How do we measure here? Let's measure from the rear end of the bracket or whatever it is to the lip for the weather strip, like this. So this is exactly 21 and a half. So this is 21 and 7/8. Okay, that's even better news, because this means we have to move this way by 3/8, which is gonna give us more overlap. Wow. Except we can't move because we're hitting something, so okay, you get the idea, right? I'm gonna do that on my own. I'm gonna have to cut a little bit here, and we're gonna get there. I don't want to hold you for the entire process here, because it's gonna be annoying at some point and the video is gonna become too long. So I need to cut this vertical part, so I'm gonna cut it and move it a little bit. All right, I think we are getting somewhere. So look at all these clicos here on this side. So I took out all the panels one by one and I hammered them. I cleaned up a little bit the weld from here and I hammered it into submission a little bit to make it nice and round. I actually took care of this curve here of the wheel well. It was, if you remember, it was pretty badly bent, and I think I was able to bring it to the correct shape. So I put everything back together here with Clico. This took a while. It's like really hard, but I was able to put them back together because everything got distorted, but I was able to match the spot welds here and here and here, everywhere. So I put them where they used to be. And here it's really hard to keep it together, so this is a little bit higher. I have to figure out how to make this match and keep it there. I can make it match, I just can't keep it there. So I'm gonna have to work on that. And this side is much easier because it overlaps, so just one Clico here at the top and it's holding it where it's supposed to be. So I made sure that from this bracket to the bulkhead the distance is the same as on the other side. And then for that joint I took entire measurement from here to there and I put that part to match this one. I also bolted everything this time with the proper body mounts here, there, and here and here. So I got rid of that flange on the bulkhead, the vertical one. I was gonna keep it, but it was in my way, so I got rid of it, and we're gonna have to make new flanges for there. But I think we're getting there. It's I just need to figure out how to put this down a little bit and hold it there, and then we're gonna start throwing fenders at it and the bonnet and see how everything is gonna fit. Look at that. Look at this body line now. It goes perfectly straight. Now the door is a little bit closed, but hold on. Okay, kind of. I am actually super happy with this body line. I'm happy with how things line up here, how things line up here. And most importantly, look at this door gap. Isn't that good? Huh. I think it's just perfect. So, one down. Hey, buddy. Ew. Okay, buddy. Just go somewhere else. Okay, one down, one more to go. And then the most important part, the bonnet. But let's see the other fender first. Ha! That, I didn't expect that. Forgot about this part. Okay. I'm gonna tack it in 2-3 places. I don't want to weld it completely yet because I might want to take this part out and straighten it even more, or actually that's surprising that this straightened up pretty well actually. Anyway, I'm gonna tack it in 2 places and I'm gonna finish it later. Alright, we definitely need to move this inner fender further in, but I just threw the bonnet on just for the hell of it to see what we are achieving here, and look at that. So we have a nice gap here, kind of, like almost very close to what we want. We have pretty nice gap here and a pretty nice gap here. So we are almost there, guys. Unbelievable. Look at this line, this body line at the side of the car, nice and straight. Close this door. Well, this doesn't close well because there's a piece of weather stripping down there. Should I remove it? Let me take it out. Okay. Now it's gonna close too much. Okay. Look at that. I love it. That's gonna be the straightest car ever. Did you expect that? Yeah? Alright, that sounds encouraging. So we're just gonna shorten this inner fender by 1/2 inch and we'll see. Oh, I forgot to show you this gap, did I? Didn't I? Okay. It's a little bit bigger than what we want, but can we move the whole door? Yeah, we can move the door. Not really. Huh. So looks like the fender is gonna have to move even more that way. So what about this though? Can the bonnet move a little bit back? No, this is a good gap, so we'll see. We might need to cheat a little bit here by making a cut on the bonnet and pushing it back in, or opening the fender. I think the bonnet will need to change, but we shall see. That is at the end, when we have nothing else that we could do but to start cheating in this way. But I am actually really happy and encouraged. So okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the fender out. I'm gonna cut the two tacks that I put here. I'm gonna take this part out again so I can actually straighten this. I forgot about this. I'm gonna make it look nice, and then we're gonna adjust the length of the inner fender. Yeah, because I shortened this one a little bit. When I put the fender on, I realized that I had to shorten it, so I shortened it a little bit, but now this one needs to be shortened as well. Okay, sounds good. Okay, it's the next day again, and I was able last night to pull this out. It was pushed, the whole thing was pushed way further in. There was a cut here, and that was pushed inside. So now I was able to straighten it somewhat, but it was super flimsy as it was hanging down there. I'm gonna finish straightening all that after we align everything. I mean, when everything is nice and solid, because now I put back all the parts there and it became a little bit more solid, but when I was hammering here, it was like all over the place. I realized that removing this part from the side doesn't give me much benefit here. I still have to put the dolly inside. I thought I could hammer from inside out, but I can't. So I have to put a dolly in the back and hammer on this side, maybe with the slapper. I also found there was a big amount of body filler in this area. All these are big dents. If I put my hand inside, I can feel them. So again, with a dolly inside and with a slapper, we're gonna take care of these. There was body filler all the way to here. I don't know why. Like here, for example, this is so easy to be straightened. They filled it with body filler. Couldn't they just pull it out, like take a pair of pliers and straighten it? I mean, probably you're still gonna have to put body filler, but it's gonna be much less. Here, I don't think there's any dents or anything. So anyway, I don't wanna digress with the valance. We're gonna take care of it later too, but at least now this looked at this side, it's kind of straight. I know it goes out, but that's how it is. Look, this one also goes out from here. So I think it looks perfect now. see, that's how it is. This one also goes out. We will see when we put the fender, we will see how they line up. And also here I was able now to shorten it by 1/2 inch, and this is not very solid, so I pushed it to the side and I tucked it here. That's how I'm holding it now. If I have to remove it, I can just cut the tuck. I also put clickus here so I can make sure that this is possible to be done. I can push this out. I just can't reach there now with the clamp and clamp it to be able to put a clicko, but it works. So that's it. Now I think we can put the fender again and the bonnet again and see how everything fits. Okay, looks like I overdid it a little bit. So you see I can't even put the fender in here because looks like this moved too far back, and I can't move the fender further back anymore because it's already too close here. Like this gap is nice, but that's too close for the door to open. You see, look here. Well, that's maximum how much I can go back, but normally this gap is a little bit bigger on TR6, but I still need to move even more back the fender, so I can't. So looks like we're gonna have to cut this tuck here and open the space a little bit. So we're gonna add maybe 1/4 inch. Let's add a 1/4. There you go. I think we are very, very close to perfect. Like, I mean, there are a few little things that I don't think we can correct without cheating, and they are not related to this clip that came from another car. They're just related to the way Triumphs are, and that's how they came out of the factory. So let's start from this gap here. So we have pretty good and consistent gap all over here. So that's my guide always, because that determines the position of the whole front end of the car. So once we put that gap correct, our bonnet is as far back and forth as it needs to be, and it is as far left and right that it needs to be. So from there, our bonnet becomes our reference for our fenders. Also for our fenders, we have the reference here, right? So this gap is pretty good. Is this the door is open a little bit, but so this gap is pretty good now, and this gap is not bad at all. I mean, it's actually good. Now it widens a little bit in the middle and then it closes at the front. It is the fender and the bonnet. We can't do much about that. The fender, believe me, it's not how it is mounted. It's not even fastened here in the middle. I might try to fasten it. It's fastened with one bolt there and one here. Maybe when I'm fastening it, I can try and push it a little bit, but I don't think it's gonna work because of the structure inside. You can't bend, you can't change this line of the fender much unless you start cutting. I've done it before on the 1973 TR6. I made cuts here and I pushed and I pulled until I made the fender and the bonnet match perfectly. So that's perfect. Here we are pretty good. Now it's not fastened here, but it can be fastened and it's gonna line up well. And the length here is pretty good. They match pretty well. I wouldn't bother for this little difference here. Now when we come here though, that's one of the flaws. The fender, the bonnet is sticking out and the fender is staying behind. But again, that's nothing that we can do about that. Also here, this is caused by the accident. So this needs to come out somehow. but it's not too much. It can be done. I can do without later. Even if I have to make a cut and pull it out and weld it, I'll figure it out. So that's okay. The gap here is okay. This, I've seen so many TR6s at car shows, etc., where these lines don't match. But we'll see. Maybe we're gonna make a cut, push this in and weld it. We'll see. That things like that we're gonna leave it for the end. And here as well we have a pretty good gap now. The door opens and closes, no problem. And that's the ultimate gap for here. That's how it needs to be. Can be smaller than that, can be bigger than that. And height wise it's pretty much okay. Can probably push the fender down a little at some point. And here we know the gaps are good. So that's what I need to do at the end. I mean, I'm gonna leave it for the end. This and this. This for whatever reason won't stay lower, so we might need to make a cut on the flange here and bend this down a little, and we'll see. Maybe here as well we can bend a little bit this, because it just doesn't go down. The front end, I put piece of cardboard here to hold it up because we don't have the hinges right now, so the bonnet is just sitting on top. But I'm really happy with how everything fits. This line now here is good. This line here is good. It's just perfect. If you remember how it was, this fender was like that, that fender was like that. So it's really tempting now to just turn the welder on and go and tack it everywhere so it doesn't move anymore, but unfortunately we're gonna have to take it apart again and clean up the areas where we're gonna be welding, cut those areas to length so we can butt weld them. We don't want anything to overlap. We're gonna have to make flanges for the vertical part over there and for the one on top. I think that's going to be the next thing that we're going to do. We're going to make those flanges and click them in place, so then we can take everything apart and weld the parts the way they should be, and then put the whole clip back on the car. You see guys, it's not that hard. I remember the comments on the first video. People were telling me, why would you do this? It is not worth the effort and the work. Well, I showed you the condition of this body, right? I mean, we're gonna have to change the outer seals only, but floors are good, inner seals are good, floor drops are good, boot floor is good. This part is known to be rusted on these cars a lot, but here it is good. So why wouldn't we save this body? It is in a very good shape. Believe me, I fixed bodies that were in much worse shape than this one, and I spent a lot more hours on them, fixing them, than what I spent on this one to replace the front end. The rest of the body is perfect. Yeah, I haven't finished this yet, but you see that it is lining up and it's going to be finished. I mean, I knew that it wasn't going to be that hard because I've done that so many times, not on trials. I don't know if you know guys, but I used to cut and stretch limousines. I worked in a limousine shop. And for the first one that we cut and stretch, my boss called an ex-employee of his to come few nights in a row and show me what they do. So we cut it together, he measured, he lined up. I found problems in what he was doing. Anyway, the second time we started doing it, my boss said again, should I call the guy? I said, no, no, thanks, I'll do it myself. And I did it. And then the third and the fourth, and I don't know how many we cut and stretched. I'll show you a clip here from the F450 that we converted from 4-door to 6-door. It was an interesting project actually, I loved that build. So how we do it, we put the vehicle on two carts that are on rails and they are absolutely square to each other. So we square the vehicle on the carts, cut it in the middle and spread the two parts apart. but the two parts of the vehicle remain relatively square. I say relatively because there's always a little bit of movement back and forth. So then, just like here, what I mentioned in the beginning of this or the previous episode, the body is just cosmetics. What we focus on is the frame. We take thousands of measurements, the diagonals and everything before and after we cut it, and we make sure that the frame is square to each other, it is on the same plane, it's not twisted, and once it is where we want it, we put extensions and we tag them. We take measurements again and we start welding. We take measurements again and we continue welding. We take measurements again and we finish welding, because things move during the welding process, right? Once the frame is squared, of course I still use measuring tape and all that, but all I care about from there is good gaps and general look of the vehicle. I don't care if one diagonal is a quarter inch longer than the other diagonal, if that gives me good gaps. Sometimes, for whatever reason, you need to actually go out of shape a little bit to keep good gaps. I don't know, different parts, different doors, for example, I don't know, but if you square it perfectly, you have horrible gaps. So if you can see here in this part of the clip how the frame was already squared and welded, and then I played, as you can see here in the time lapse, I played with the body up, down, left, right, until I got perfect gaps. Once I got perfect gaps, I tacked it, and then from there it was just welding and finishing it. It was a beautiful vehicle, I loved that one. Anyways, I digress, it is a different story, but what I mean is that it is not such a complicated job as everybody thought it was gonna be. Now we have to weld the flanges there and then just weld it in place. That's gonna happen in the next episode, of course. So I really thank you guys for sticking around with me. Thank you for listening to my stories on the side. I appreciate that as well. But I'd like to ask you for a big favor, guys. It is really important to me that the people who watch my videos also are subscribed to my channel. This makes a big difference to the algorithm. The amount of views matters, of course, but also the ratio between the amount of views and people who are subscribed to my channel watching those videos is important. So I'd ask you for a big favor. Please, if you're not subscribed, go and hit that subscribe button. It is free. It's not going to cost you anything. Just one click. That's all. Also, if you can share my videos so more people can subscribe and watch, and that also really matters to me. Unfortunately, lately the YouTube revenue is going downhill for whatever reason. I have no idea what's going on. So anyways, that's the way to help me if you want to help me. If you can't afford becoming a Patreon, or if you can't afford to make a direct donation, which is 100% understandable, I don't blame anyone. And by the way, if you are a Patreon, I receive every once in a while messages from people who have been Patreons for months and years, and all of a sudden they can't afford it anymore. And I receive such apologetic messages from people who donated a lot, and they come to me and they apologize that they're gonna have to cancel their subscription. You don't have to apologize, guys. If at any time you feel like you can't continue with your subscription, absolutely understandable. I am grateful that you've been supporting me for a long time, or even if you made just one donation, I really appreciate that, and you don't need to apologize and explain the reasoning behind why you can't do it anymore. It is up to you, and I appreciate you, and I'm grateful that you've done it, and I'm really sorry that something changed in your life and that makes you be in a worse position. Anyways, that's the longest speech ever. Thank you guys for everything that you do. I really appreciate it, and stay tuned for the next episode in which we're gonna take everything apart again and we're gonna put it back together again. So I'll see you next time. Bye.